Welcome back to Mentally a Badass. Today, I sat down with a returning guest. Her name is Tali. You may have remembered her from season 1. She is my first guest, and we talked about her experience in a mental hospital. Today, we will be talking about her experience being a Christian while living with BPD. Some of the topics include problems in the church in regards to the mental health conversation, the stigma surrounding medicine, and the therapy she uses to cope with her BPD. Enjoy! Hey y'all, welcome back to Mentally a Badass. My name is Justine, and today we have a returning guest from season 1. Her name is Tali. If you remember her, she was my first guest. We talked about her experience going into the mental health hospital. I also believe, did we talk about health insurance?
I think we did a little bit,
I
yeah.
think you were the guest that I talked about it with, or maybe that was somebody else. I don't know. But I have a lot of updates on that. We want to throw that in there today. How messed up the US is. Anyway. Okay. So today's topic, we're going to be talking about her experiencing living with mental illness while being an active Christian. So let me first open up the floor with you. And let's start with, I mean, the question is usually I like say like how long of this, but I'm assuming were you? I mean, then again, actually, it's actually a good, actually, it's a valid question. How long have you been a Christian?
So I've grown up Christian my whole life. I remember when I was about 5 or 6, my parents asked me if I wanted to give my life to Jesus, and I didn't fully understand it at the time, but I said, yeah, sure. And so they prayed with me, and that was that. But, growing up in the church, you kind of waver a little bit. So I had my moments where I left and then came back and left and came back. Um, but I think being as active as like I kind of am now, probably since about 17-ish.
Okay, yeah. So around 6, yeah. For me, I'm Catholic, and I've just been baptized, and I didn't really get asked that question. It was just kind of like, it is what it is. This is it. Okay, yeah. So there is definitely a huge like taboo in like in the church, and I know, a lot of Christians, and they tell me literally the same thing. I've had people I know of that literally have left their church because of that, and they felt like they're judged, or it's just not a good vibe, and it's very toxic for their mental health. So if you want to just talk like if you want to just first start talking about your experience in the church while living with mental illness, like do you talk like is it like what do you feel like that negative energy or feeling judged, like are you open about it, I guess, like when you're in your church setting? Like, can you just tell me a little bit more of a background on that?
Sure. Yeah, there are definite moments where I do feel judged. My church personally is actually pretty good. Um, they their kind of slogan, I guess, if you can even say it that way, is like "come as you are."
Okay.
Um, so they're very open and very accepting of it, and they're actually the only church that I've ever gone to that has been like that. Um, and so that's it's great. But there are people in the older generation usually who are more judgmental about um, taking medication for mental illness and stuff like that. Um, and they're usually the ones who are saying things like, "Oh, you just need to trust God more," and stuff like that, as kind of like shaming
Mm,
statements.
yeah.
But I've actually been able to speak to my church a few times about my struggles, like when I was about 17, before I was baptized. They had me give my testimony from the church, which was a huge church at the time, um, and maybe not huge. I'm sorry. Anyway, not the point. But it was nerve wracking regardless. And I was met in a very welcoming way with that. No one was really judgmental. Um, it was really good. But yeah, I definitely have had my fair share of judgments. But
Yeah, and let's talk about, I mean, it's typically is the older generation. that
Yeah.
does look down like with medication and such. I mean, typically, I guess like the boomer generation. But no, I honestly like really hate when they say don't go and to like doctors and take care of mental health, just trust God. It's like, I just feel like religion and faith is just so different from like your emotional health. Like they wouldn't say don't take your medicine for um I don't know, like some type of physical illness, trust God, like it's just like it all goes back when people just can't see it. And people
Hmm.
also like, can you agree that someone who struggles with mental health, that you can, I feel like there's a way you can like really kind of feel it and like how you feel inside your head. So, but like people outside can't can't see it. So that's why people are thinking like, oh, it's not real. Well, if someone was physically, I feel like the only way that people can physically see that mental health is like physical health is when people get to the point where like they're depressed and they're not eating, or their anxiety is like kind of like really like taking a toll on their body. Like that's when it
Right.
gets to like to that point where people are gonna need that medication because I mean, well, my personal experience with medication, I'm currently off my medication for um a couple of reasons. I mean, they're not bad. They're not bad reasons. I'm happier now. But I just truly feel like medication is so important if your mental health is like gotten really, really bad, because I just feel like there's just like different stages of it. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
And just like any other illness. And I can really go really deep into that. Like I feel like I'm gonna just like give an example here. My grandmother, well, she passed away, so God rest her soul. She has very severe depression, and she was always known as like the cranky old lady that no one wants to talk to. But people
Mm.
don't know that the way that she got there is that she never took care of her mental health. So that is mental health at its like severe stages versus like someone who is having like a bad day or something, like I don't know. You know what I mean? Like completely
Hmm.
different stages. And when she did go on medication, she was feeling better, but then of course she felt that she was getting better. She went off it. That's a whole nother story. But it's just I do like get so angry when people refuse to take like, if they're like, if I know some people who are just their mental health is super super bad and like they need help and you can tell they need help, but they're just putting all of their energy as just praying every day.
Right.
And that's just, I don't like, it's good, it's definitely a piece of it to have that connection, but in regards to like physical, I mean, yeah, so that can be like a whole other thing. But let's go more before I go on a tangent like I usually do. I don't think I knew you had. Maybe you did tell me that you had PPD, or maybe I just like saw it on Instagram. I don't even know. So we want to like kind of dive into that of when you knew you had that and like your experience.
Right. So I actually didn't know I had it for a long time. I went into the hospital a
Maybe you
few
did
times
tell me,
for
and maybe it was in the other episode.
maybe.
I probably
Um,
should have listened to it, so I'm not repeating myself. It was a while ago we did that episode, like
yeah,
over a year ago.
yeah, which is crazy. But I found out after I had called the provincial nurses line for something completely unrelated to my mental health, but I called them about something and they read off some of the stuff on my file just to confirm that it was me, and they listed borderline personality disorder. And I was just like, wait, I have that? I was
Yeah.
never told because when they diagnosed me with it, I was a minor and they told my parents. And they actually told my parents too that like I was a lost cause with it kind of deal. And
I
that my
feel like I
parents should
remember
just,
that.
yeah, that they should just prepare for the worst. And it's just
Yeah,
like,
it's all coming back to me.
yeah. But yeah, so that's kind of how I found out about that. And so like my parents didn't want to tell me because they didn't want that to like push me over the edge.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, that would totally put that would. Some people just gotta like be careful what they say, like lost cause. Just it just gets me so mad. People who just struggle mental health and they're just like, well, oh well, here we go. Like, okay, go on.
Yeah. So, and looking back, like I was really bad with it. I was pretty sick. Um, and, of course I still struggle with it. That's something that I'm still waiting on healing for. But honestly, like if I didn't have God in my life, like it would be so much worse. And like, you were talking about before how some people deal with things is like they they pray all day, um which yeah, I agree with what you had said there, where it's like there are other things too, right? Like my
Yeah,
pastor.
like it's part of it. Like it would definitely be beneficial,
Hmm.
but it shouldn't be the only thing you're doing for your mental health. Like it's not gonna be like a quick fix. Like it's like one day if you're having like you have your depression and you're struggling with your depression, praying to God, you're like your depression is just not gonna just like go away like that. Like it takes work. So I think
Right.
that that's my point is that God, people are treating God like if he was like a genie or something like that, like giving your
Hmm.
wishes or whatever. Like he's not going to, just magically just put his like I don't know, like a little wand around your head and just like magically take all the depression that's like in your brain, like that's making you sink. Like it doesn't work that way. Like I mean, definitely it gives you that comfort. And I do
Hmm.
believe that God works in mysterious ways. So even let's say he doesn't just like praying to God, I don't like, I don't have depression anymore. And then just wake up the next day and you feel great and you're just fantastic. Like it's going to probably be more seen as like the opportunities coming your way or just like maybe you just go to the beach and you just feel like it works in those kind of ways. Like he's not like a genie.
Yeah.
But like I said, like it's not gonna like completely take it away, but or maybe even I believe that we like God is, I mean, God gives us that free will, so we make our choices. So
Hmm.
in our thoughts. So if your thoughts are thinking, hey, let me like a friend comes to you and say, hey, maybe like medication would do good for you. Maybe that's God in his works, like setting that up that his friend is coming to you and saying, hey, this can help you.
Exactly.
And then going that route. Like that can be how God's working. But if you're denying it, it's kind of like I mean, I want to say you're messing with it because everything is just gonna like everything happens for a reason at the end of the day. But
Hmm.
it's I don't know. I'm the kind of person like if opportunity knocks at me, like I'm gonna take it, you know? And
Yeah.
so that's just how like my thoughts are on it. And hopefully if anyone who like listens who is like, is a Christian and does have that whole mindset that like, just trusting God, don't take medications. Like I mean at the end of the day, it's your life, but I don't know. Everyone's mind works completely differently, but I mean like it's good that you're saying that your church right now is doing better. So,
Hmm.
I think that's definitely really really good to hear. But anyway, so if you want to open up about your PTSD, the floor is yours.
Okay. So I have PTSD from a few things. Unfortunately, I'm sorry, it's not funny. I laugh when
Oh, I
things are
do this. I do
uncomfortable.
the same thing. Oh my god, I like the same way.
It's not funny, but um, the there's child abuse starting from the age of about 5, and then um, ages like 8 and 9, stuff like that, and then just kind of like all throughout there was quite a bit of like emotional abuse going on as well. Um, and then as I got older, I actually entered into an abusive relationship, um, which I don't even really like to call it a relationship anymore because like it was a crime. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Um, and it's interesting, a little bit of a tangent here, but like I started to get really curious because I recently got triggered for it, and I've been kind of like struggling with it for like a couple months now, I think. Anyway, and so I started to go down this rabbit hole because like my situation was very unique because it was long distance because I met him over this stupid like teen dating website, which like if anyone listening is a teenager, do not go on dating sites, please, for the love of God, do not. Bad news. Um, anyways, but so he, when we met, we lived in the same province, but then I moved, and so we were living in separate provinces. Um, so like everything was over text. He never physically hurt me at all, right? Um, so I was curious, and I started looking into like, okay, what would actually legally define like domestic violence or domestic abuse? Those terms are used interchangeably, actually, I found out. But found out that what happened actually counts, which I was surprised about
What exactly
because it was
happened?
so it
Like, did he
he
bully you through text messages or something like that? Or did he like
um
send you things that he shouldn't be, you know what I mean?
yeah, it was
Like unsolicited photos.
well, thank God it was never actually photos. Hallelujah. But it was just like with words.
Okay, yeah.
And if I tried to object in any way, he would say like, "Oh, okay," and then stop texting me for a while, and then he would text me saying, "I'm dying, bye." And I'd start to panic. I was like, "Wait, what do you mean you're dying?" And he was like, "Oh, I'm gonna go kill myself."
God.
So yeah, and he'd constantly manipulate me like that, um, to the point where like he controlled every aspect of my life. I woke up when he wanted me to wake up. I went to sleep when he wanted me to go to sleep. He had to say goodnight first. If it's ridiculous.
Yeah,
So like,
that's emotion that's like definitely emotional abuse. And like
mhm,
yeah, it's also I get what you're saying because if he's saying I'm gonna go kill myself, it puts you in a position where you feel like if you do the wrong thing or if you don't do what he says that he's gonna go kill himself and then you're gonna feel responsible. I don't know
yeah,
exactly what that's called. Um, I don't know. I feel like there's a word for it, but that's definitely would mess with somebody. Like that would mess with me.
yeah. It messed with me a lot, and it was happening constantly. Like we in the world before emojis, we had just been texting like emoticons to each other, and I was just like, okay, he just sent me a smiley face. I don't have to respond to that. Whatever. I'd go like 5 minutes without replying to him, and he'd be like, "Babe, are you mad at me?" Yeah.
God, how far was he living from you?
He was a province away. So I live in British Columbia, and he was living in Alberta.
I don't really know distance in Canada. I'm in the US. I'm
It's
horrible at
just like
geography. Like if you
I
tell me
think
from like this state to this state, I can have more of an idea. But for this, I'll have to like go on Google Maps and like look at where each part is. I don't have a
so
concept of that.
it's about like an 8 hour drive.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh yeah, it's a little
Yeah.
bit of a hike.
Yeah.
How did you
So
manage to get out of it?
um with great difficulty. I had tried so many times to break up with him just over and over and over again. Um and it never worked. I tried like friend zoning him because I was like, okay, well, if I fully break up with him, I went into this whole thing of like, if I fully break up with him, then he's more likely to kill himself. So I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to say like, hey, let's just stay friends. But then he would pressure me into being his girlfriend again.
Hmm.
Um, and and then I broke up with him like fully like zero contact twice. And I think it might have actually been 3 times, but I don't fully remember. I'm kind of dissociated from that. But there's like this gap where like I don't remember texting him during that period of time, and I don't know. Anyway, um, but and it's actually interesting because when I broke up with him those 2 times, I had to do it in a very non-Christian way, or like in ways that a lot of people that I know who are Christians wouldn't understand, because I had to tell him that I hated him and he was ruining my life and I never wanted to talk to him again. As a
Mhm.
Christian, normally you don't say that kind of thing. You
Right.
know what I mean?
Yeah. You usually want to be aggressive.
Yeah. And I had to be aggressive though, because I tried doing it nicer and it never worked.
Mm.
So,
No,
and
I totally get that. Like I've never like done that. Actually, no, have I? Now here I am just trying to think back on my relationships. No, I've never like done like, oh, hit you bye. But I totally get what you're saying when you're trying to like, be calm with someone and talk to somebody and they just don't get it. And then you just kind of like have to just snap and they finally get it. But then it's like, then we're like, we're the bad guy kind of, because I'm like that. Like I'm like the
right.
nicest person you'll meet. But if you cross me, it just, you do not want to see that side of me.
Yeah.
And
I'm the same way.
it's just honestly, it's just unfortunately just how it has to be with some people. Like, they just don't get it kind of thing. Like they have to be spoken to that way in order for things to just like cut out, you know?
Hmm.
Um, there's interesting stories. Don't mind me. It's late at night over here, so I'm just a little delirious. So let's move next to your experience with dissociation. I actually want to hear about that.
Right. So my dissociation can actually be kind of bad, unfortunately. Um, like it's to the point where I often feel like things aren't real, like I'm just in a dream kind of thing. Um, and I don't remember a lot. Like what the things that I remember well, but then there are things that I don't remember and I don't remember them at all. Like, for example, even the small things of like let's say my husband and I watch a movie together, and then a few months go by and we see the movie again on Netflix, and it's just like, oh, I've always been curious about that one. And it's like, we watched that one and I have no recollection of it whatsoever. Um, and then it's my dissociation often feels like, like I'm in a dream, like I said, and then also like, when you're really, really tired and you're just kind of like groggy, going through life, not really comprehending much because of that. That's how I feel often. And
Oh,
if I
me
am
too.
tired,
Me
yeah.
too.
And if
Oh
I
my
am
God,
tired,
me
it
too.
makes it worse.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I can, I feel like dissociation is not really spoken about like that much. And they like are, symptoms of BPD and bipolar. And it's
Mm,
just like no one really like people when people talk about like BPD and bipolar, they barely mention dissociation. So I think you're really like the first person I really had like an actual conversation with about that particular symptom. I don't know if you saw you might have liked my TikTok when I make kind of like a short skit on it. It's
mm.
where like I'll be in a crowded room with like people and I just like don't feel like I'm there, or feel like I, I feel like I feel like you do know what I feel, but I can't, it's hard to explain.
It is.
It's and I mean I've also sometimes I'm like, I feel like I'm like literally just in a therapy session right now, because there's also even times where like I can't recall events. I can't tell if it was like in a dream or if it was real life.
Yeah,
Okay, yeah, so I definitely do experience it. No, I see. It's actually it's horrible.
it is.
It's horrible. Like I would think that like I did something and then I'm like, and that's why I do have like a hard time. Like I always have to write everything down. Wow.
Same.
Yeah. Oh my God. No, yeah, I always have to write everything down. Like anytime that someone like for example, schedule something with me, going
Hmm.
straight to Google Calendar and writing it and doing it right away, because I'm gonna forget about it. And then if it's in the Google Calendar, I know what happened in real life.
Yeah, exactly. And actually, I was just thinking about like when my dissociation gets to be really bad, there are times when I'll be just like walking around my apartment, or maybe I'll go and take out the garbage or something like that. So I'm going downstairs, but I find myself kind of like stomping a little bit because the floor or the ground beneath my feet doesn't feel real. So I feel like I have to step harder in order to realize that it is real, if that makes any sense.
Stopping. I don't think I've done that before. I don't think I've gotten to that part, but I has this when you've had this experience, is this like relatively like new in your life if you always had this experience?
It's been an always thing, and I think that probably stems from the, PTSD, like the child abuse starting at, like such a young age, like only about 5 or 6. Like my daughter's only 4, and like I still think about her as a baby, you know what I mean? So it's like I can't imagine like a 5-year old going through that. Like that's only 1 year older. So
Yeah.
it makes sense that it was always there. Like I remember this one incident pretty clearly. I mean, only this one section of it, the rest is out, but my mom had picked me and my siblings up from school, and we were in the car on the way home, and there was this bridge we had to drive over. And I remember I was looking out the window, and I blinked, and then all of a sudden we weren't on that bridge anymore. And I was so confused. I was kind of like rubbing my eyes, and I had played video games as a kid. I still do, but there's lag where you like your character will go to a certain point and then kind of like slingshot back
Mm-hmm.
or like skip forward even more kind of deal.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so I was thinking of that. It's like it feels like that's happening in real life, and so I said out loud like, "Oh, it feels like my eyes are going all skippy," and my mom didn't know what I meant at all, which
Yeah.
is understandable because that's hard to decipher. But yeah, so and that was when I was, I think, in grade 3.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's kind of always been there.
I mean, it could have been there in my childhood. I just don't remember. I mean, right now I'm way more aware of my mental health. Like I have, so, it's good and bad. It's great to, it's good to be aware about your mental health, but it's just like exhausting to be aware of your mental health. Be like waking up, be like, oh, I feel very depressed, or oh, I'm feeling kind of manic right now. I'm gonna go do something stupid. Like, it's just like I'm so self-aware, and it's so makes me so annoyed. I'm like, I don't like I mean, like I said, I know it's a good thing, but it's also just like, ah, shit, here we go again. Like, and it's like, and I feel like I have to like fight through it too, because, um, I mean, it's just been very, especially like, I mean, when I used to work for Disney, I used to people just call out when I was like depressed, but I mean, with this job, I can with my current life, I can clearly work whenever, but to an extent. Like I need to obviously have my clients post up. Like I can't just like not post for them because I'm gonna sleep the whole day. Like, you know what I mean? Like that's like the only thing. That's why I always try my best to schedule in advance. So just in case I have one of those days. Um,
Right.
but it's just definitely rough. And like I literally like you should see just my calendar, Google Calendar. I literally also just like write everything on here. Like I just don't, or it's just not real, or it's just not. It's crazy. My
Yeah.
brain is just like literally that's from that song from that TikTok. Literally a freaking jungle. Do you know what trend I'm talking about? The
Oh
in my
gosh.
head is a jungle, jungle. When you're on TikTok, I feel like you're on TikTok enough to maybe have come across that trend.
I'm
Oh,
not sure if I saw that one actually.
oh, I did it.
I don't know.
I did that one. The one that's like really big right now is I'm just thinking what my day. Do you know one?
Oh,
That
I
one with
think
the
I do.
guy when he's like with his beard and then like people in the back are like this. I'm like literally like the most random stuff go viral on TikTok. This is like the one that's like this guy blew up. Like he's like now he's like TikTok famous because of the way he was like dancing with his beard. No, it was just, and it's just, I think it's just funny how he's just like he really like gives off like bro vibes or like I don't know, and then like there's people in the back that are like I think it just looks funny and like so then a lot of people are doing the trend and just like having someone in the back doing that, and some people just kind of like I don't know, just like kind of
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
It's just TikTok is just an interesting place to be in. Okay, what do you do to take care of your mental health?
Um, well, I do a variety of things. A lot of them are like my like related to my faith, like reading my Bible and prayer and stuff like that. Which can be hard for me because I have a bad habit of just telling God all of my problems and then just like, okay, I'm done, and not doing anything else. I need to get better with that, but Lord is helping me. But then, like, I also go to therapy. I've been doing some EMDR therapy,
EMDR,
which
what's that?
I think it stands for eye movement
Oh yeah, I know this. Yeah,
desensitization
yeah,
reprocessing.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
yeah,
I've never
that's
done that
hard.
before. What is like? How does that
It
work?
it's like your therapist, like they'll kind of establish like a what they call a trauma timeline with you and stuff like that, try and figure out key points that like you still have an emotional charge to. Um, and one of the things that I talked about with my therapist was that like there are just some things in my life where it's like no matter how many times I talk about it and talk about it and talk about it, it doesn't get any better. That emotional charge is still there, it hasn't gone away, and it's been 10 years. You know what I mean? Um, and so she just said like, yeah, that's a good sign that your brain hasn't actually processed it correctly, and
Mm,
EMDR is a good choice for that. So you think about
that's
like a
interesting.
certain kind of yeah, you think about a certain kind of theme um, related to the memory, not necessarily the memory itself. Like one that I did, I think it was last month, was kind of based on like that loneliness. Like even if you're around other people, you still feel lonely because of certain situation that I was in. And then she held her two fingers up, and would just move them side to side, and have me follow her fingers with my eyes. And then after a while, um, I'd take a deep breath, and then she'd ask me what kind of came up. So like, and it's such a strange but powerful and unique thing
It
because
is.
yeah, because like just thinking about that while watching her fingers move from side to side, it makes me cry, and it's
That's
insane.
awesome. I can totally see that. Like when you're moving your like fingers and I was like slowly doing the eye movement, I was trying to think about something sad in my childhood. and I felt a little emotional. I didn't keep thinking about it. I don't want to start crying. But that is so smart. And it's also like, okay, so don't take this the wrong way. It's smart but creepy at the same time. The reason I say creepy is because it's like if we're robots. It's like if something in our brain, like in our makeup, is just broken and it couldn't process it. So we like had these experiences, and if our brain's not built to certain, or like, it's broken at some part, it's like I can't process it, and that's like creates like this mental illness. So that's like very fascinating. I'm gonna,
Mhm.
knowing me after this podcast, I'm gonna do a lot of Googling, and I'd like to do that. I like to just do this research because I'm just very curious. And I, I, and then, it's, and think about it like now there's so much more information about mental health and people are more open about it. And, so like, if you experience something traumatic, like they have like, you have, instead of just like letting it just pass by or just, holding it in, just moving on and staying strong, it's being more socially acceptable to take that time and to allow your brain to process it.
Yeah.
So it's just a different way that people are now looking at it. It's not like, oh, suck it up. Like if you think about it, when you're a kid or whatever, there was a lot of like suck it up kind of situations. So if you did go, people go through trauma when they're a child or teenager or whatever, and you are literally being constantly told to just toughen up, suck it up, your brain is never processing that. So all of that is being stored in your brain. And this is why we all have issues. So
Exactly.
that's just so interesting. So whenever we're a kid, I'm gonna let them cry all they want. In reasoning, though,
Yeah.
with reason. Because some I don't have kids. You have kids. You would be able to answer this question, but I do know. Whatever. I'm not the right person this is not a parenting podcast. I shouldn't be giving parenting advice. I don't have kids. The only experience I have is having a niece and nephew. But thanks for sharing that. I didn't like that. That's what I just love about doing these podcasts. I just learn something new. Always learn something new. And then when I learn something new, people listening learn something new. So it's very good. I appreciate you bringing that up. So how often do you do that?
Um, well, I was doing it, I think, once every 2 weeks for a while, but then we started doing like I was sick and tired of being sick and tired. And so I was just like, okay, let's just dive right into the deep stuff. Bad idea. Because what can actually happen is unlocking all of that stuff can actually cause some people to go into crisis because it all comes back all at once, and you're not really fully prepared for it. It's common to be like tired after, to be more emotional, to be like a bit more weepy, stuff like that. That's common. But if it's getting to a point where it's like you're thinking about hospitalization, that means it's going too far and you need to slow it down. And that's kind of the point where I was at. It was like I feel like I'm entering into a crisis right now. And so we slowed it down and we decided to like, okay, let's try and figure out, let's look at this like trauma timeline again and try and figure out where is a good place to start, because there's some stuff where it's like, okay, this only has like a little bit of an emotional charge still. But then we get into session and we get to doing the eye movement and it starts to not like it feels like almost a waste of a session in a way, because like there's barely any charge here. But and then there's like a middle ground there where there's some stuff where it's like, okay, that's small enough that it could work out, but unfortunately the smaller stuff is linked to a bunch of trauma that's related to my past.
Wow,
Like I was triggered by
I just yawned into my mic. Oh my god. Okay, wait. Okay. Can you start from the sentence saying smaller stuff connected? Go from there. I'm gonna cut my yawn out because sorry. Can you do that again?
That's okay. Okay. So the smaller stuff can be connected to the bigger stuff. So if there is this small small bit of like teenage drama or something that happened, like I remember really briefly, I just want to mention this for context. Like there were these two girls in my 8th grade class, and they would bully me for like literally everything, even including like what I was eating. And I had a lot of issues with like remembering that for a long time. Now it's not as bad, but like that used to, the whole reason why that situation bothered me in the first place was because it was triggering my eating disorder that was starting to develop, and the eating disorder was caused by my trauma. So it kind of goes down like this like this conveyor belt, I guess, assembly line of like, okay, well, this is caused by this and it's caused by this, and
Oh, I
crazy.
know. Oh my gosh. I like, if I'm not like in therapy sessions, I'm just like, I used to, I'm like, well, this probably was caused by this. And I literally am like diagnosing myself, which is like not supposed to be doing, but I do it anyway. But I like professionally I mean, I've been to therapy and been through stuff. So like, obviously I am professionally diagnosed that I have mental health issues, but other stuff I'm just like, do I have BPD? Ooh, do I have this? You know what I mean? I'm just so self-aware, but it's true. Everything's connected, and
Yeah.
it's just mental illness is just so complicated, so complicated. But I hope, I mean, I hope you're seems like you're really doing a lot of work towards it. I really hope that, you live your days at least feeling, better from like everything that you have to deal with internally. You feel it's like
Yeah.
helping and all that?
Yeah. And I'm working on different like DBT stuff, because that's like, I think if I'm understanding what my therapist said correctly, it's like kind of the gold standard for like borderline treatment. So I
Say
have like
DPD? Wait, what'd you say?
a borderline.
Oh,
Uh,
they said like D as in dog. I was like, what's that?
oh,
I misunderstood.
DBT, dialectual behavioral therapy.
Oh, yeah, what's that?
um,
Cause I heard of these things. I just never really like studied it. And I don't even remember even learning this when I was like studying psychology in college.
right. Um, yeah, so it's basically teaching emotional regulation skills, and there's like in this handbook that I got from my therapist, there's there's a bunch of papers on here. Hold on, let me find it. There's like myths about emotions. So they'll say a myth and then you have to write like on the line below it what the truth actually is. So like the first one is there is a right way to feel in every situation. And I had to kind of think and challenge that mentality and just like, okay, no, there actually isn't. It's different than that. And then like finding different names for different words, stuff like that, learning about what's called wise mind, which is basically that balance
Literally
between your
homework.
emotional.
It's like literally school for like emotions and such.
It basically, yeah, it teaches a bunch of stuff.
That's
Highly
cool.
recommend it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right now I'm not seeing a therapist because I literally finally found decent health insurance today. Because when I
Hmm.
left my job at Disney, obviously I lost my health insurance. Well, actually, no, I mean, I don't say obviously, but the way like I got it through my job. So when you quit your job, you lose your health insurance. And my God, it took me like a month to find decent health insurance because everything was like, oh, like $300 premium, $400 premium monthly. Like I'm not paying freaking $400 a month for health insurance. All right, so we're gonna wrap up here. Thanks again for being on my podcast and sharing definitely a lot of information. And I've learned a lot, and I'm sure that my audience learned a lot. So I really do appreciate you being on here. Of course, I'm gonna leave all your social media in the description as always. I hope you have a good day. I hope everyone has a good day. And if there's like any last couple things you want to say, this is your time. You got to hold 10 seconds. Go. I'm just
Okay.
kidding. Not 10 seconds.
Okay. There is a Bible verse that is my favorite in the entire Bible, and it has gotten me through so much.
Mhm.
And it's Psalm 34, verse 18. And this is in the NIV version, so it's going to be different depending on what Bible you have. But it says, "The Lord is close to the brokenhearted and saves those who are crushed in spirit." So even if things seem like really terrible, hopeless, whatever, God's still going to be there for you. And there's another verse. I'm not going to get into it too much because it's kind of a long one, but it's Psalm chapter 10. And it basically goes on to talk about how God is our defender against people who are wicked. Like the last bit of it talks about the author is asking God to hold accountable those people who have hurt others when that I guess crime, that word isn't in the Bible,
Mhm.
but that bit wouldn't have otherwise be found out.
Mhm.
God will hold them accountable to that. So
Yeah.
don't worry about, revenge or anything like
It's like
that. That's
karma or
just,
whatever.
yeah, that's up to God, and He's gonna take care of it. Even if our earthly justice system doesn't do justice, God will do it.
Yeah.
And He's the best one too.
Yeah. I agree. I totally agree. Wow. Well, thanks for sharing.
Yeah,
Thanks for sharing
yeah,
that.
you're welcome.
Okay, so to my audience, hope you guys have a good rest of your day and stay tuned for next week's episode.